Doctors, stop being so cheap. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the KC ChiroPulse podcast, brought to you by Katz Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. This is my co-host, Dr. Troy Fox, and we are from Katz Consultants, which is the innovative aficionado, there's a big word, of chiropractic business success. How's that? All right, everybody. Welcome to today's show. Doctors, don't be cheap. Troy, we've been talking about this for a while, off and on.
Why do I feel like you're attacking me right now?
I'm going to attack everybody today.
There we go. Let's do it.
We see these clinics that try to be cheap. They try to be low cost. They try to give everything away. And does it really work? The answer is no. It does not. It does not. And I think there's a whole lot of reasons for that. I think the biggest one is people today, consumers today, are looking for value in healthcare, not cheap in healthcare. And there's a difference. You know, there's a reason why there are so many luxury foreign cars on the road today. It's not because they're cheap. It's because people find value in them. People think that they're going to drive better. They're quieter inside. They're going to last longer, et cetera, et cetera. They have a higher level of luxury in them. They're more fun to drive. You know, whatever the value component is for the consumer, they're finding the same thing with the chiropractic profession, and cheap just isn't working well.
And I want to throw this out here too, because this is kind of part of the cheap isn't working well. In every other profession, every other thing that you do, we a lot of times, based on our own belief system, are willing to take a risk to see if something works. And I want to use an example here real quick. So I went and got stem cells done, injected stem cells on my shoulder a number of years back. And when I went, the doc that worked on me, fantastic doctor, very knowledgeable, also very honest with me. She said, you have a 50% chance of the stem cell treatment working for you. Well, unfortunately, I was all for it, because it was like, I want results and I'm willing to take a risk on this procedure and the thousands of dollars that I spent to see if it helped, because I had a pretty big shoulder problem that I was struggling with, and nothing else up to that point I'd exhausted a lot of my options. So I said, okay, I'm willing to take a risk on this. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to blame the doctor. And then I got into Shockwave. After I did this failed, and I got into Shockwave, and Shockwave ended up helping my shoulder. We've talked about that before, but here's what I noticed. What I noticed was patient sentiment when it came to Shockwave was, I'm willing to take a risk on whether it works or not. And I was very honest with patients and said, hey, there's a chance this is not going to work for you, but here's the cost. And here's what we would do with you. Okay, let's do it. So then what I started realizing is, if we frame chiropractic in the same way, rather than being cheap, what we are is honest with our patients about, here are the options. And is this 100%? Because the problem is, we've made a lot of guarantees in chiropractic in a lot of cases. And patients are expecting miracle results. Now, I know sometimes we wear shirts around the office that say expect miracles, because quite frankly, in most cases, chiropractic works really well. But I think we have to be honest with our patients. And when we are, then that patient makes a determination. Hey, I'm willing to do a course of care to determine whether it's going to help or not. And I understand that it's going to cost money out of my pocket, and I'm not blaming you if it doesn't work. And that's a rapid and distinct departure from what we as chiropractors were processing probably even 5 years ago, that it was all our fault. It's all on us. We've got to get this patient better. What can I do? And I would go home sometimes thinking, what am I doing wrong? Or what didn't I come up with for this patient? And I would take the whole burden of a failure of care with the patient on myself. And then what I want to do then is I want to start to cheapen care, because I lose the value in it as well. Yep. And I think in a lot of cases, we as chiropractors have done that. So there's my diatribe on that. But I got a lot of feelings about that.
Yep, I do too. We need to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor. So we're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about why patients, consumers, are not attracted to cheap right now, especially in chiropractic. So we'll be right back.
Affordable care shouldn't mean undervaluing yourself, but most chiropractors are still undercharging, especially when it comes to insurance allowances and cash patients with limited coverage. Chiro Health USA helps chiropractors charge appropriately, get paid well when insurance is available, and still serve patients with no or limited benefits, all through a compliant discount medical plan. The result? Doctors stop undercharging, raise fees, and increase income by about 20% without sacrificing care. That's not a discount strategy, it's a business strategy. Learn more at chirohealthusa.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are talking about doctors don't be cheap, because being cheap doesn't work. And part of that, I think, is, and Troy, you touched on a couple of things in your diatribe. You touched on a couple of things that I think are important. One, what you're really talking about when you say we just have to be truthful with people and they'll follow our lead, what that really is if we're truthful, it helps us build an honest relationship, a trusted relationship a lot quicker with patients. When you cheapen your practice, when you give stuff away, when you try to go on the trek to the bottom with your pricing, I think it's really easy for patients to say, you know what, I'll give you a try, but it's going to be a short try, because cheap makes it easy for them to quit because they don't have anything invested. And so when you get patients to invest in care, and this is counterintuitive, but we see this a lot, patients are much more likely to follow through with care, especially if you built that trusted relationship on top of it early on. Now it's about value. It's not about cheap. And I think we kind of get that mixed up a little bit in the profession sometimes, because we think, well, if I just lower my prices, if I don't charge for muscle stem and those kind of things, if I just hide it, then patients are going to like me better because I'm not costing them a lot. And I think we're missing the boat there. That's not the signal. The signal is, are we creating value and a trusted relationship and a great experience for patients? I mean, I think it's that triad of things that really keep patients in care. And when I say in care, and paying for care, today's patients are, if they're engaged in your care, they don't care what it costs. They want to know what the value is. And that's two different things.
You're absolutely right about that. And quite frankly, when we talk about the cost of care, I think that brings up the topic of, why aren't you talking to patients more about treatment schedules if you're not already? Because when we do, I go back to Shockwave as an example because it works really well. Some people do 12 visit Shockwave packages. So I happen to do 6 to start with, and then we make a recommendation, and we do a midway evaluation on a patient. But we start with 6 visits to start with, no questions asked. You need to follow through with 6 visits, or we don't even have any idea whether this is going to work. Why are we not doing more of that with chiropractic, where you're creating a treatment plan, and you should be, especially, if let's say you're doing a cash service, there is a legal requirement for you to let the patient know what care costs.
Absolutely.
So it's really easy to do that, but you got to get commitment, that head nod from the patient. I get what you're saying. I understand. We need to follow through with X amount of care before we even make a determination on whether this is helping you or not. We're not going to base it off of visit 1 or visit 2. Oh, I felt better on visit 1. I feel worse on visit 2. This isn't working. I think we run into that a lot. And so again, we get down on ourselves because all of a sudden we shoulder all the responsibility for our 50-year-old patient that's overweight, smokes cigarettes, will not give up their diet Dr. Pepper. I'm going to go diet because that's even worse than regular Dr. Pepper, and won't change their eating habits and aren't at all willing to follow any home recommendations. It's all on us to get them better at that point. How many of you have had somebody like that? We have them all the time. You can't take the responsibility for that. What you can do is gently reassure them and also remind them that if they do the things at home, they stand a much better chance of success. It's your money. I'm just trying to help.
Exactly. And a flip side of that is, I see doctors all the time say, well, I'll do an adjustment and I'll do muscle stem, but I'm not going to charge them extra for the muscle stem. And so what does that do? That creates a zero value proposition for the patient with the muscle stem. So then down the road, when you realize, oh, I really should be charging, now that patient's never going to want to pay for it because it was always part of what they were already paying for. And so you shoot yourself in the foot. And I see a lot of insurance practices doing this. When insurance doesn't want to cover something like laser, for example, they want to give it away. They want to hide behind the insurance and make the patient think, well, the insurance company, is covering this, and it's just your copay. That's all you have to pay. And we have to quit doing that, because what we're doing is we're shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to value. And the doctors that drive their new patient costs down, their new patient exam down, it's almost nothing. Why do you do that? For somebody to come in and just pay $19 or whatever it is some doctors charge, um, there's no value in that for the patient. So, in the patient's mind, that's an easy, yeah, go in and see what they're all about. And, if I don't walk out on day one with it feeling like I've got a trusted relationship, then I won't go back. And do you have a trusted relationship on day one? That's pretty tough too. So we're just setting ourselves up to lose that value component right from the start.
And on the back end of that, the other thing that I thought of as well, sometimes we create a litigious situation. Sometimes we create a situation where maybe the patient's not improving and we start giving away services going, well, this didn't work. I feel really bad that you didn't get better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on decompression and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do several visits and I'm not going to charge you for it because I just feel like, you should have been better by this point, kind of thing. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? You're putting a burden on yourself, because if this person, say, gets way worse, they go get an MRI, they've got a ruptured disc, and they decide to sue you. Guess what it looks like? It looks like you are now feeling bad because you did something wrong and providing services for them. So you have to be very careful on that end as well. And that's the other end of cheapening yourself that I don't like as well. Would you provide services for a patient because the patient's not improving? You need to have that discussion with the patient about, here are some of the factors about why you may not be improving right now. And I'd like to change gears with you, but I'm not like giving away the farm.
No, and to piggyback on what you were just talking about, how you can get yourself in trouble. If that patient's a Medicare patient and you say, I'm just going to charge them for the adjustment because that's what's covered. And then the laser therapy that I've recommended, we just don't charge Medicare patients for that. Well, that may be setting you up for creating enticement for patient. And that can cost you a ton of money if you get caught doing enticement. So, you have to be careful. It's important. Just charge for your services. Chiropractors should get paid for what they do, period. End of story.
And I think you have to sit down and value what you're doing, and you have to have an honest conversation with yourself as well. With what I'm doing, do I value that service? Would I provide this to my own family? If you would, then there's a value to that.
Exactly. So we need to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll kind of wrap up. Doctors, don't be cheap.
Patient numbers dipping, staff overwhelmed, and another marketing idea promising the world but delivering nothing. These pressures feel familiar to nearly every chiropractic clinic today. Across the country, chiropractors work hard, yet many find themselves stuck, balancing patient care with the nonstop demands of running a business. That's where the real strain begins. Most clinics face the same set of hurdles: inconsistent new patient flow, operational bottlenecks, and the constant challenge of staying visible in an overcrowded digital space. National reports show that over 60% of clinics struggle with scheduling efficiency alone, and even more lack a clear marketing strategy that reliably converts. But the good news? These challenges aren't roadblocks, they're signals. With the right procedures, smarter outreach, and guidance built specifically for chiropractic practices, clinics can turn daily stress into sustainable growth. Stronger clinics start with smarter strategies. Grow your practice with confidence. Book your strategy session with KC Consultants.
Okay, everybody, we are back, and hopefully by now you've changed your fee schedule and you're no longer cheap. That's one of the things we do here at KC Consultants is we really help doctors dive in and create a real fee schedule that actually becomes a strategy in your practice. And there's a science to it. And I think too often times we're just slapping some numbers down on a piece of paper and calling it our fee schedule because we think it's competitive with the chiropractor down the street. We have to stop doing that. Every practice should have its own fee schedule, but you have to learn how to use it as a strategy to create that value proposition for patients and to create a retention tactic in your practice.
And that retention tactic gets patients better, and then it creates long-term practices that are stable. And we were talking about this off camera a little while ago. We were talking about how do you develop a stable practice and how do you keep a stable practice? It's not by pouring new patients into the equation every month.
Right.
Now, yes, we all need a few new patients every month, but from a
And if you're new in
standpoint of
practice, you do. Yeah.
yeah. From a standpoint of long term, if you're an established practice, you should hold stability without doing that because you've got a retention in practice because you've gotten results for that patient
Mhm.
and they're getting value out of the service you provide. And that's really the magic to the recipe is from a retention standpoint is that patients feel like they're getting value from the service that you provide. So
Exactly.
I spend a lot of time talking with patients that have been patients for a long time about big words like imbibition. And we talk about how the disc doesn't have its own blood supply, what we're doing when we adjust you. What is the mechanical action? Okay, yes, we're resetting the nervous system. I love that. That's not a real tangible for patients. But I'll tell you what, when you start talking about imbibition, and you start talking about mechanical function of a joint and a disc, all of a sudden the light bulb clicks on. And so I
Mhm.
spend time. So I'll pick certain months out of the year that's all I talk about all month long with every maintenance patient. Hey, I want to remind you of the word imbibition. You remember what that one means? Oh, sort of, doc. And then we'll go through it again. So it's a great table talk thing to think your way through what is retention all about and what makes people want to come back to my office.
Yeah. And the chiropractic story is so great.
Hmm.
Um, if you're telling it in well patients, but it's so great to me that in and of itself creates value. But then why do we turn around and cheapen our pricing and bring the value factor down? So we've got to find that sweet spot when it comes to our fees, when it comes to establishing value for the patient. Real practices are built on the value proposition, the trusted relationship, the experience we create for patients, and using a fee strategy that makes sense in your practice and understanding how to use it. If you haven't done this yet, go to catsconsultants.com. Check out everything that we do. There's some free downloads on there. There's actually a couple of classes on there that you can watch for free. If you ever want to talk about your practice, jump on one of our schedules. We do that for free because we're not trying to cheapen what we do, but we have been at this for so long and we've had the pleasure of helping so many doctors. We just want to transform the profession into a value proposition for everybody. So doctors, don't be cheap. You don't need to be. Troy, anything to add?
I think this is a great topic for you to mull over in your head on your drive home from work today. If you're listening to this, just get in a quiet space, shut that radio off, and think about how do I value my practice? How
Yep.
do I value the services that I provide? And what do I want my practice to look like a year from now? What do I want to look 3 months from now? What do I want it to look 5 years from now? Dream a little bit, but to be able to dream, you have to value what you do. And you guys are great at what you do. If you didn't see RFK, is it RFK? Yeah, his
RKG.
Baja speech about chiropractic was awesome. He was
Mhm.
talking about how valuable it is and how many people we've helped over the years. Here's a guy that's not a chiropractor talking about this, and you can say, "Oh, he's giving a little lip service because he's a politician." But at the same time, he gave a really great speech on the value of chiropractic and how many people we've helped naturally. And I
Yep.
thought, wow, like I'm listening to it and I got goosebumps. I was like, that is so cool. So I think we have to value what we do as well. Let's quit getting beat up because that's what we do because we're down in our practices and we're like, on an island by ourselves. Take time, shut your radio off in your car this afternoon. Think to yourself about the value of your practice and where you want to be. I
Mhm.
think you're going to have some really positive thoughts and you're going to get back to the excitement that you had when you first started in as a chiropractor. Let's
Yep.
make it happen.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. From all of us here at CATS Consultants, we want to thank you for tuning in each and every week. And thanks to Chiro Health USA too for being one of our sponsors. So everybody, we're checking out. We'll see you next time.
See ya.